Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports as ordered. And tonight, are we going to complete our bracket on the way to the NBA Finals? Can Dallas close it out at home? Or does Minnesota save us another day from having LeBron conversations? We're going to talk about some incompetent teams. Look back over the course of sports over the last few years, and we picked out some select teams in a new segment that I like to refer to as case studies. So tonight, of course, you know Sports Reports as ordered is not complete without the even kill. Texas born, raised in VA, representing New Jerusalem. He is the one and only Mr. Logical. And do me a favor out there. Don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
And then, of course, I am your unorthodox statistician. Going left so much that you thought I was southpaw. I got more lefts in me than Deontay Wilder because he ain't got nothing. I got more lefts in me than Jaylen Brown. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Eastern Conference Finals MVP Jaylen Brown, that is.
Shout out to Larry Bird.
I am 2-5. And we're going to get this thing started off, of course, as always, with the All-American. Get it off my chest.
Yeah. So hope everybody enjoyed their Memorial weekend. I enjoyed it. Played a little golf. I played golf 3 out of the 4 days I was off. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 different courses. Had a good time. Paired up with some strangers. It's a good round of golf. Meet some people. We have spectators. You got to show out. So I played the best round of golf of my life on Saturday. It was amazing me. Sometimes you don't want to jinx it. Yeah. Like when you bowl and you get like 2 strikes in a row, you're like, oh man, I'm about to get this turkey, but you don't want to say it to your head too much. I was killing it. Straight down the fairway, every hole on the front 9. It was, the dude looked at me, he was like, do you normally play like this? I was like, nope. But that leads me to this next point. Golf is already like a very eccentric kind of sport, hobby, activity. And has a lot of like nuanced rules. Say 4 if you hit the ball and this goes spraying somewhere. Don't talk in someone's backswing. Don't be on the tee box when it's another group's turn. Little things like that. Pace of play. That is a real thing. 18 holes should take about 3 to 3.5 hours. If you're out there and you're in a group of 4 and you're slow, you're slow. It's par 3, 4, or 5. If you're still hitting 5, 6, and 7, and you're in the fairway, we're near the green, you're going too damn slow. Pick the ball up, drop it next to the furthest person, chip it in from there, go on to the next hole. Don't be sitting around because you get it bogged up. So Saturday I played, and the front 9 was dope. A lot of people end up leaving. So people on the back 9, it's a crowded, nice Saturday, breezy, 81 degrees. Don't get to the tee box and hit 2 and 3 balls because you hit one in the water. Drop it on the other side and keep it moving. Especially if you're in a group of 3 or 4, listen, all y'all can't be hitting 2 balls. I'm by myself in the cart. So I got to roll up on guys like, yo, can I play through? That should be like the natural thing. You know what? We're playing slow. You're playing slow because your scorecard told you you're playing slow. If you're not hitting bogeys, if you out here shooting 7, 8 shots per hole, you're playing slow. Get your ass out the way. So I got to say, yo, can I play through? Oh, yeah, cool. The guy's like, just hit another one. I'm like, yo, can I play through? Oh, yeah. So then I go play through, hit my ball. He hit right after me. I'm like, listen, you got to let me play. You got to let me get to my ball so I can play the rest of the hole. Mm-hmm. So these guys in front of me, they shotgunning beers. I'm just like, yo, this back 9 was just ridiculous. And I'm like, I get it. You want to have a good time on Saturday. I'm not trying to tell people how to enjoy their time. But once again, if you see a group that's moving faster or a solo person that's moving faster, just get out the way. It's like the left lane on the highway, get out the way. So what ended up happening was that it got so congested, it was getting late, and people were tired of waiting that I hit the ball. They had like the tee box was like off to the left in the woods, off to the right in the woods, so you couldn't see it. So I come out after I hit my tee shot. The guys that I just passed, they're playing the ball, and then guys behind me didn't see me. They're playing the ball, almost hit me. I'm like, you know what? I'm out. Because I'm going to hit somebody or I'm going to get hit with this golf ball. So I just left on the 18th. I just picked my ball up. I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done for the day. I had a great round, but it just was like the pace of play. If people were playing to the pace of play, I would have been ahead of the other group and it wouldn't have been slowed down at all. That's not a reviewable. That's just ridiculous. Did he get another foul? It's 5 fouls. But yeah, so I love golf. I'm going to golf as much as I can this summer. I just literally ordered like 96 balls. So pause. I'm going to be out there all summer. Just remember, pace of play. Get your ass out the way.
Simply put, Mr. Logical said, to the left, to the left.
Get your ass out the way.
Yes, sir. So, as a vet, as a dedicated vet, serving 22 years in the mighty, mighty United States Air Force, the one thing that was expressed to us over and over was integrity first. Do the right thing even when no one's looking. And as we've gone through the history of sports in this country, we've done a whole lot of the wrong thing. Whether it was segregation, whether it was blackballing a dude because he wanted to fight police brutality, whether it was banning people for gambling and not putting people in the Hall of Fame that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame because they might have juiced a little something, even though it didn't necessarily affect their play in that way. Like Barry Bonds was already a Hall of Famer before there was ever a clear. So with that being said, it brought joy to my little heart. And, I am confirming for you all out there that I do have a heart. It brought joy to my heart that Major League Baseball finally did the right thing and decided to include Negro League records into their record books. To whereas now we have people like Josh Gibson as a record holder, as he should be. Now, granted, 962 home runs, but a lot of those came in exhibition games, so you can't win them all. You know what I mean? But single season batting average, on base percentages, different records are now recognized that include the Negro League era of baseball. Now, before y'all go out there, because I know Negro League jerseys and hats going to be the wave now, just take a moment to appreciate, because we always criticize baseball and all these other sports when they get it wrong. So I'm going to take a second and I'm going to give baseball a hand for getting it right. It's about time. You know what I mean? Keep that same energy. I shit on them, and now I'm going to congratulate them because they finally did the right thing. And then from there, we move forward. So, the Boston Celtics, the bootleg British themselves, are now in the NBA Finals for the second time.
Cares.
Second time in the last couple years. This has been a dominant run. I know, like, we talk about LeBron James and the run that he had through the Eastern Conference to get to the finals. This is not quite that, but it's still respectable and commendable what the Celtics have been able to do over the last 8 years. Now, what makes it even more interesting for a guy like me, because as Mr. Logical would say, 2-5's favorite word is rivalry. Oh, I am here for Kyrie Irving against Boston in the NBA Finals, if this holds up. But Mr. Logical, what are your takeaways from what the Celtics have been able to do?
I think the Celtics have been fortunate that the injury bug has been biting the other team. I'm not saying it's easy. They're still playing against NBA players. They're still playing against the top 400 players in the world. So I'm not saying it was a cakewalk, but they definitely were fortunate to not have to deal with Donovan Mitchell for 2 games of that series, games 4 and 5, which they won for a gentleman's sweep. They didn't have to deal with hell, the Knicks injury bug helped the Pacers beat them out. And then the Pacers get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then the injury bug takes out their best player, their on-ball scorer. So it's been good. I still think that Boston needs to just tighten up a few things. I think because they just look at their team like the Pacers were never going to beat them. I don't think the Pacers would have beat them at full strength as far as like everybody that was in the playoffs. I'm not talking about like guys who were injured beforehand, but things like that. But guys who were in the playoffs on the roster, I don't think they felt like, Indiana had a chance against them.
Right.
But they fall in love with the 3. You can't do that against Dallas because I think Dallas will run out on you. Luka throwing lobs to Gafford. These refs are getting on my nerves. That was a clean steal. They called it a foul on Ant. Just ridiculous. But yeah, I think Boston has, like I said, they're going to be well rested because they've only played 14 games.
Right.
That's a steal. That's a clean steal.
That is a clean steal. Yeah.
That's a clean steal. Yeah. Review. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was a clean steal. That was a clean steal I've seen all game. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I think Boston, if they get Porzingis back, I figured like by June 6th, he's got to be ready to go. If not the 6th, the 8th or the 10th, one of these, like he has to be ready somewhere in this finals. I don't know exactly what the injury is, but if they were thinking he was coming back and then it was like, oh, he won't be back for the Eastern Conference Finals, then they had to be thinking at least the finals. Like he should be back.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, obviously a 7'3" the unicorn, it makes him even more dynamic. I think is theirs for the taking. Dallas played 6 games of first round, 6 the second round, and they're on game number 16 now against a very physical team. Luka hasn't been limping, but he did. He was rusty dealing with OKC, and now even dealing with Minnesota, just kind of battling, just getting bumped around, knocked around by the bigs. I don't think anybody in Boston had to even bumping anybody bigger than them, because I don't think there's been a guy on the floor on the opposing side that's been bigger other than Miles Turner. Maybe I think he might be the only player that they saw this whole playoff run that was bigger than. I mean, maybe Bam, but Bam is about Tatum size.
I think he's smaller than Tatum.
I think he's shorter, but he might.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
I think he's. I don't think he's 6'10", and I think they have Tatum 6'9", 6'10". So I think they've had just paths to the paint, but they shoot the hell out of the 3. Hauser, I don't think I've seen him knock down a 3 yet.
Which is
I haven't watched all 14 games, but I have watched a lot of each.
Hey, but Peyton Pritchard is giving those quality minutes.
Yo, he is killing them. That little step back behind the back dribble.
Yeah, he's been rebounding, So this is my issue, right? I don't know what to believe. I just don't know what to believe. Remember, Kendrick told Drake, why believe you? You never gave us nothing to believe in. That's how I feel about Boston right now, because I don't know if Indiana played above their heads or if Boston just played down to the competition. Like last night, for example, 14 of 44 from 3. Why? You know what I mean? What I do know is we've solved the issue of, a lot of people out there are still going to argue Jaylen Brown versus Jason Tatum.
Correct.
But if nothing else, we figured out Jaylen Brown is the one that relishes the moment. Because coming down the stretch last night, back-to-back possessions, he had the step-through layup. He had the block shot. He kicked it out to Derek White for the game winner. And then, of course, Drew Holiday sealed it with the offensive rebound. But Jaylen Brown seems to be the one who wants that moment. Like we talked about, I've brought up Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. There was no point that I felt that Russell Westbrook was the better player than Kevin Durant. But Russell Westbrook had the mentality of, this is the moment. There needs to be a hero. That hero is I. And Kevin Durant was more like, all right, Russ, do your thing. Like, you know what I mean? He just stepped back, acquiesced, if you will, to use one of my Stephen A words. He acquiesced, to Russell Westbrook. But now, as I look at the Celtics, this is what I see. Jason Tatum is the facilitator. Jason Tatum, is generally the leading scorer. Jason Tatum grabs rebounds. But when the game is on the line, when there's a big game, when there's a time to step on your opponent's neck, it's always Jaylen Brown. And that's why he ended up winning the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, because he hit the shot in game one. He came through with the moments like I talked about last night. He just seems game to game to know tonight somebody has to put their imprint on this game. Whereas Jason Tatum, a lot of times, I don't want to say, I'm not going to accuse him of something like stat padding. You know what I mean? But what Jason Tatum is allowed to do is come along for the ride, take a lot of shots, and then after the game, people look at the box score and says, well, he had 32 points.
Yeah, like, I think as I'm watching this game here, Jason Tatum, I think it's to the point where Chris Broussard said this on First Things First. He's like, I think it's to the point where he might be getting overly criticized versus just, just analyzed.
I'm guilty of that. I'll admit that. I'm guilty of that.
See, for me, like, I never thought the way he played was like detrimental to the Celtics. I got these pop-ups come up on my screen.
Well, real quick, before you go any further, just let me say this thing real quick. You know what? I'm guilty of that, but I'm not the problem. These dudes are just punks. It's our job to criticize and analyze, say what we see.
Yeah, but it also is to the point where there's going to be a conversation where, well, he didn't win Eastern Conference Finals MVP because that's just this generic conversation that we have.
Right.
I think what it is that, like I said the same thing about Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson got overly criticized early on in his career before he even took a snap, and then he won his MVP. So now it's like people are just kind of, I want to say ignoring stuff, but they don't say the same type of stuff that they said before, even if it could apply. Like, I think he needs to get better at throwing the ball from the pocket in the wind or whatever. Like, that's an analysis you can make after a windy game. If he went 17 for 27 in a game, it's like, well, he has to get better from the pocket in windy games. Oh, you're doubting him because and I think Jason Tatum was getting that same kind of criticism because it was always like, who's better, him or Jaylen Brown? Really, it just was a testament to, as we will talk about organization later, they just made two smart draft picks. Granted, they were helped out by other teams not picking these guys over, so like they ended up with two guys that fell in their lap. Yeah.
Nobody thought he would become this. When he got picked at number 3, a lot of people did the what the hell, and he developed in that way.
Yes. And shout out to Danny Ainge for keeping it together. And then Brad Stevens, when he was the head coach, moving up to the office, I thought that was a weird move. It seems to work better for him. Maybe he's better analytically with the players than he is schematically. And it seems to be like, let somebody else do this work down here. I'm the architect. Let me draw it up. Let these guys build. And I think that worked out.
But let's slide into the future for a second. And let's just say Boston does not win the title this year. Can I really say that? Because, I mean, it's the same results.
If they don't
with better teams.
If they don't win it this year, it's because they're gonna play a really good team.
Yeah, like, everybody plays a really good team, but that's
they're gonna play a really good team that it'll be. I think it'll be a 50-50. I think it'll be like, I think the Vegas odds will probably be 50-50 on who's gonna win between Dallas and Boston, or even Minnesota, especially if Minnesota comes back, which has never happened. So if Minnesota comes back and it's Minnesota Boston, it's like proof that you're playing a really, really good team because they were down 0-3 and they ran off 4 wins in a row. So
I have
whoever they play in the NBA Finals, it's going to be a difficult team.
I happen to think that Brad Stevens is a great coach. You know what I mean? I mean, he was the architect of, you always bring up Butler and
Yeah,
how close they were to winning the national title. He was the architect of that. So if Joe Mazzulla with this team does not win the title in a couple of weeks, and here we are 8 years into this. Yeah, you got the 2 finals appearances. Yeah, you got all the Eastern Conference Finals appearances. But if nobody can get the job done to get over that hump, it's hard
don't
for me to be like,
don't
oh
don't
yeah,
do it.
Brad Stevens had to go upstairs because he
Don't
couldn't get it done. If nobody can do it.
it. I don't think he had to go upstairs. I think it just was a matter of the reason he was really, really good at Butler because it was a small market team, very personable with the players, and they just played hard. I don't know if it translated to the NBA the way that he probably expected, but you can still tell he's a smart basketball mind. Like I said, we'll talk about
Mhm,
organizations that do
mhm.
poor things. Like they could have just fired him straight up and instead of saying, you know what, you might be better here. We're gonna allow you to use all of your skills here in this office. You still gotta build it. Yes, you want to win it all. They have the team to win it all.
Yeah.
It would be, in my opinion, I wouldn't call it a collapse, but I will give them an advantage over whoever they play. But they're gonna, like I said,
I,
they're coming out. The Western Conference was tougher. One team beat the number one seed, the other team beat the defending champs. Everybody was whole. So all the Western Conference teams went through a real gauntlet.
well, well, as the rest of my Texan brethren say, well, I tell you what, you know, I would feel a lot better about Boston because we've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks. What if they don't win the title? What if, and we're not talking about it just to have something to talk about or just to like, I'm literally concerned
it
that they
it
may
would
not win
be
the title. But,
it would
but,
be definitely it would be a disappointment. I
but
mean,
I
for lack of a better
feel,
word.
I'm not trying to bring feelings to a fact fight, but I believe that if Brad Stevens was on the sideline as the head coach right now, I would feel a lot more confident than I do.
Well, I think a lot of times Mike Missoula does seem to make some moves that we don't get.
Joe.
I
Don't lump
keep
him
calling
in
him
with
Mike.
me. Don't lump him in with me.
I don't know why I call him Mike. I think just because of his hairline. He's just got a Mike kind of hairline.
What
No,
the
I'm
hell
messing
is
with you.
that?
I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you, man. No, like he's a young guy. I keep forgetting Joe. I know I call him Mike every single time.
Don't let me
I,
flex these grades up in here.
I just sometimes it is peculiar simply because I think we all look at Boston's team and think to ourselves, "Yo, I could coach that team." So when we see the moves that he makes, because I know going back to the 2022 finals, that was a conversation. Is like, yo, why is the coaching advantage between Steve Kerr and Missoula? It was quite vast. You could tell, and then you had the experience on the floor. I think this Boston team is different. I think having Drew Holiday on the
Well,
floor,
that was
having
Ime,
Horf,
right?
that was Ime. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
no, no,
yeah.
no. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
Ime.
that was Ime. Yeah, yeah.
Ime, and then the Eastern Conference Finals last year with Miami when it
Hmm.
was like they had to battle back in Game 7, and then Tatum rolled his ankle, and it was just like, I guess you want to die on your shield, but as a coach, maybe you tell him like, listen, go shoot that thing up, tape it up, come out, give me 7 good minutes, go back in the locker room, tape it back up again, come back out. Don't just limp through the whole game. Like, listen, give me your spurts. We'll put somebody else in and see if we can battle this out. But that's a coaching decision. But same thing, you got a guy out there who wants to be a warrior. He wants to die on the shield. Game 7 at home. You got to give him that opportunity as well. But like I said, they won the East by a lot. They won every game by average like 11 points. They're running through the playoffs. Yes, they had a lot of late game comebacks and things like that. But I don't know. I feel that we got to let them get to the finals. I think they match up well. I think they're a matchup nightmare for either one of these teams
I
that comes
agree.
out of the West, simply because Boston's bigs, like Gafford and Lively, they're not going to be able to guard
Porzingis and Horford.
Porzingis and Horford out on the wings.
Mm-hmm.
But if Luka's going to keep throwing up these lob passes, then I think they'll just take that. I think they'll go like, you know what? We'll give you this edge if we can just keep banging down low. But
Yeah. No, I agree with that, but as far as Dallas goes, and this is common for these conference finals this year. Well, for one, I think I had read that this could be the first time both series get swept.
ever,
Yeah, I think I saw that. But as I was looking at this, Minnesota, I'm not trying to do the thing. Minnesota could feel like that they should be up 3-0 right now. Indiana had 3 games of that 4-game series where in the fourth quarter they had a 90 or higher % chance of winning that game. And game 1 was the errant out of bounds play. Jaylen Brown hit the equivalent of a Ray Allen shot. Game 4 they just fell apart last night. Like Nembhard, like both of these series have shown us people are not just making stuff up when they say experience matters. That's what I think we're running into in both of these series, because like Nembhard would play great for the first 45 minutes of the game, and then he would just crash out as
in
soon
the
as he
last 3.
see 2 minutes on the clock. This man would do some of the craziest decision making. He was out of control, too sped up. He couldn't like tie his shoes or something.
Number 23, Naismith.
Naismith, yeah, Aaron Naismith.
He did the same thing last night. I think he shot like a 3 with it was like 12 seconds left on the shot clock, and they hadn't scored for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
There's another alley-oop, like the new Lob City.
That's what they're looking for. Like I said, I think Boston.
I'm scared. I don't know why. Like, look, I will never claim to be some kind of basketball tactician or whatever the case may be, but I feel like Dallas has had 30 alley-oops in this series.
Oh, it's close.
I saw a stat the other day after game. I want to say this was after game 2. Dallas had something like 9 alley-oops or 8 alley-oops in this series, 20 overall for the playoffs, which is more than all the rest of the teams combined in the playoffs.
Because there's 3 dudes on Dallas that do nothing outside of 8 feet from the hoop. Derrick Jones Jr., Gafford, Derek Lively. All they look for are lobs. They don't look for any pin downs so they can pick and pop. None of that. They're not shooting any free throw line extended jumpers. They are simply rolling to the hoop, looking for Luka or looking for Kyrie. And the fact that both Luka and Kyrie are great passers off the dribble, they attract attention. Like I said, it's just 2 versions of the same player in different sizes. So that is I don't know if Boston can defend it better than Minnesota,
right?
Or will they just will they be able to just score in barrages from the 3-point line that kind of negates Dallas wanting to take it down low? Because with these Minnesota games, Minnesota was up 10 early, and then Dallas comes storming back. They were up 4 late in the game, 4 or 5 points late in the game. The last from games 1 and 2. 2 they definitely should have won. And threw that pass out of bounds, and that was a bad look. And then they had to switch. Like, I don't know why they switched Gobert on the Luke. I'm like, just didn't make any sense. I would have rather just him foul him. Just foul him and have him shoot 2 free throws.
Well, game 3.
Of trying to defend him and let him shoot the 3 in his face.
Well, in game 3, Minnesota scored 20 points in the fourth quarter. Kyrie and Luka, 21. That's your difference in the series right there. Besides the fact that old Kitty Cat came in here tonight shooting 28% from the floor and 14 from 3, and that's me rounding up, by the way.
Yeah, every game I looked in the second half, when they show his stats, he was 4 for 13 2 nights in a row.
I wanted to see more NWA. They played him a little bit more tonight, that being Nikhil Walker Alexander. But for Indiana, it's the same thing. Like, I don't understand how these teams work. So, for example, they drafted Jarris Walker at number 8 this year, number 7, I believe it was. He was a swap. The Wizards drafted him, but then they traded him for Koulibaly, and he played 5 minutes the whole series against Boston. So now when we get to the playoffs next year and they try to play him, they're going to say he's inexperienced. He doesn't have any playoff experience.
Once again, like, I would love to sit down with like an NBA coach at some point, maybe just by happen chance, I'll get an opportunity to sit down, because I'm gonna ask. I'm like, yo, why do y'all have 12 dudes on the bench and 4 of them don't even take, like, 4 of them might not even have their shorts on underneath their sweatpants?
Well,
Like,
like him in
how are you?
particular.
What are you doing? What are you doing with these guys? Why are they on the bench if they don't get any time on the floor? It doesn't make any sense to me that they get to this level. They played all these different levels of basketball, and they get to the NBA. You're running the hell out of you got guys playing 42 minutes, 41 minutes, 43 minutes, and you can't get another guy on the bench on the floor with these other 4. Like, is he so out of place? Because if he's so out of place that you can't put him in the game, then why is he on the team?
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen Indiana with Ben Mathurin in the lineup, but since he wasn't, I figured Jarris Walker is that kind of do everything Swiss Army knife, especially if Tyrese Halliburton isn't going to be there. He's 6'8". He can be that point forward, grab rebounds, block shots, whatever the case may be, versus playing old man McDermott, versus, playing some of these guys that aren't going to contribute anything but cardio, and keep everybody paced, I guess. Like, they're like the dudes when you're doing your PT test that you ask to come out there and run with you so they can keep you on task. But, I guess, we'll just have to wait. I got a 1-point game right now. Minnesota's up. Dallas coming down the court. So about 8.5 left. So, another photo finish, it looks like.
Look at this BS call.
I know. He getting that D whistle treatment, that Dwayne Wade, for y'all out there that don't know 2-5 terminology yet. D whistle.
So he's
because
on the
he
ground.
was the bailout king. I just I hate referees so much sometimes.
Yeah, Scott Foster, just the fact that I know his name, it gets on my nerves.
Yeah. But we were talking about case studies and some of these teams that just can't figure it out. So, this was your idea. You brought it up to me. I thought it was one of the greatest things I heard. So, I'm gonna let you take first dibs on this. So, where would you like to take us?
I'm gonna start simple. It's probably something that's probably on a lot of people's minds. We talk about all of these teams and their coaches and the contracts. Now the contracts are guaranteed. Detroit Pistons. He gave Monty Williams, who hit that ball out. That's clearly off a cat. Monty Williams got $72 million to coach this team, and they haven't done anything right. It seems like they had Dwayne Casey, got rid of him. Their draft picks, you had Sear Thompson last year, who you didn't need because you had Jaden Ivey the year before. You had Cade Cunningham the year before then. You had Luka Garza, who's playing in Minnesota now. Killian Hayes out of the league. He drafted him in 2020. Bruce Brown, you got him in the second round. That was you didn't have another pick. Luke Kennard in 2017. So it's like they get these players, they get these coaches, and they put them together, and then they fire the coach. New coach comes in, gets rid of all the players. Then they bring another coach in, and then they gave him $72 million.
You know who they picked up last season, right? They went out
and got Wiseman.
Yeah, when they got Wiseman, even though they already had Jalen Duren, they got Bagley. You know,
They just keep making the same mistake over and over again, and you wonder why. Like, oh, why are we always? And then they don't get the first pick. Don't get the first overall pick, so that's always hilarious. So then you have another team. Like I talked about the owners. Talk about these owners trying to microwave championships. We could talk about the Phoenix Suns and how they traded their whole team away to get Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, but didn't want to go get a point guard, which you probably could have gotten from any G League organization if you
already
wanted to
had
get rid of them.
campaign.
Had campaign, got rid of him, and then the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets were supposed to be like the new part of the New York takeover. Like they gentrified Brooklyn and built that stadium, brought all those people out, moved them out the way. They got Jay-Z on as an ambassador, so people bought into the whole Brooklyn idea. Uh, and then you get this Russian oligarch. He comes in and spends his money. It doesn't work out. So he's like, I'm going to sell it. So now Joe Asai has a team. They go like, well, one of the bad moves they made was trading pretty much the whole team away from Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett. They had Darren Williams. They were like the Clippers of this past season, but they did it
Oh,
like 10 years ago.
and
Where they
don't
just
forget Joe Johnson.
had these bunch of old guys that, oh, we're just going to manufacture this championship. It's going to be easy. And then LeBron and the Heat put 50 on Paul Pierce and knocked him out of the playoffs and essentially ended Paul Pierce's career as he rode off into the sunset with the Wizards or something like that. Yeah, but like I said, the Clippers seem to do the same. Like everyone feels like they're chasing this imaginary thing instead of just being ready when you get the right pieces in place. Just be ready to make your team work. They're like, nah, it's the same thing with the NFL. When Peyton Manning started throwing a bunch of touchdowns, now everybody want to go get 4 or 5 wide receivers. It's like, listen, you better learn how to block and get a quarterback that can make all those audibles because everyone can't do that. Oh my goodness.
Let's get out here and get this Oklahoma drill popping.
Oklahoma, Omaha. Yeah, that's cool. Zach Wilson can't run Peyton Manning's offense. So like I said, so a lot of these teams with the new owners, like I said, the whole microwave championship, that's always something that really caught my eye. The Commanders, they got their new ownership group, but they let Ron Rivera run for a year, and now they brought their own people in. But Denver went out there, spent all that money, like that ownership group. They bought that team. They hired one coach. They fire him after 11 games. And then they go get another coach. They overpay him. Then they overpaid the quarterback. And
A
they got
coach
rid of the
that had
quarterback.
been out of the league.
It was on TV. So now that's going to set them back. They're a proud franchise that if Bo Nix doesn't work out, now what you going to do? Get your first round pick and a coach you're paying reportedly, rumor has it, $20 million a year. So who is your teams?
So I looked into the Washington Wizards. And I mean, obviously, that's pretty predictable considering I'm one of the 4 Washington Wizard fans left on the planet. So, so as I was looking into this, I decided to go back, saying on some, Black Street. We're taking you back. So I went to 2008 and I looked at Antoine Jameson, one of the leaders of the franchise, one of the guys that had success as a Wizard. They traded him over to Cleveland to LeBron James, who had, already eliminated you from the playoffs, and everything. And in return for Antoine Jameson, they, 3-team trade. They brought back Ilgauskas because they wanted the expiring contract. They got the 2010 draft pick from Cleveland, the rights to something called Amir Prelzik, which, I think I take that for my acid reflux. And, and so that was already starting off wrong, right? So then you go to 2010 and you're like, yo, the Wizards got John Wall. It's on and popping. So the Wizards also had 2 other draft picks in that draft. You ready for this one? Lazar Hayward and here we go. Nemanja Bjelica. Hold on, I can't. Uh-oh. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
All right,
Okay.
I was on mute. I was on mute. So I
Okay.
was
Yeah. Yeah.
chilling.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
guys have real long careers as accountants.
Right. So this is what the Wizards. So after they got John Wall, here are the Wizards' first round picks going forward. So Jan Vesley, Bradley Beal, Otto Porter, Jordan Clarkson, but they traded him to the Lakers on draft night. Jerry Grant, Harvey Grant's son, not Horace Grant's son, Harvey Grant's son. Troy Brown, Rui Hachimura, Denny Avila, Corey Kispert, Johnny Davis, Jarris Walker, who they traded for Koulibaly, as I mentioned earlier. So Koulibaly, Victor Wembanyama's teammate, who averaged 3 points during the regular season during their season together last year. And then he improved to 7.5 points in the playoffs. And people said, look at the big step he took forward. That's what the Wizards are dealing with. Since 2009, up through this year, they have averaged 31 wins. Throughout that time, you've had a mixture of Leonard Hamilton, Eddie Jordan, Flip Saunders, rest in peace, Wes Unseld Jr., Randy Whitman. Back in the day, even before that, they went and brought in Doug Collins to come along with the MJ stimulus, even though that was 12, 13 years prior, because they were trying to chase glory that didn't exist.
And that didn't work either. 12
Yes.
yeah.
So then
we got Phil Jackson if you wanted to do that.
So then, as a part of that Antoine Jameson trade I brought up earlier, they got Al Thornton from the Clippers, Drew Gooden. So in the John Wall year, free agency wise, they signed Lester Hudson, Sean Marks, Adam Morrison, and Marty Collins.
Sean Marks, that's the GM for the Nets now. Well, he learned from a great organization how to butcher something.
Yeah, you mentioned that they got Paul Pierce. He hit the game winner against Toronto and said, "That's why you brought me here." And that
was game.
Yeah, that was it. So then, bringing it back home until current times, when they got Russell Westbrook, made the playoffs as an 8 seed, traded Russell Westbrook to LA, to LA. You remember what they got back in that trade?
That was the Kuzma deal, right?
Not yet. They got KCP, Montrezl Harrell, and a draft pick. That was that. Then
Kuzma went for Rui.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No.
How did Kuzma get there then?
I think Kuzma was a free agent.
No, I think he was part of a trade package.
I'll look that up real quick. But where I was going with this, Rui, he went for Kendrick Nunn in 3 second-round picks.
Yeah, that was like the Paul Gasol deal.
Yeah, that was
let's hook the Lakers up deal.
Yeah, so then, so KCP, of course, had KCP on the roster. You got your leader, all that kind of stuff, right? And they traded KCP for Will Barton, who is in Spain right now.
Makes sense.
You know what I mean? And Monty Morris, who is the backup point guard in Denver, or he was the backup point guard in Denver. Now he's the backup point guard in Minnesota and is still not getting minutes in this playoff series.
Correct.
So like that goes beyond. I could just simply say it's a cheap owner. I could simply say it's just a culture thing, like I just don't understand how you repeatedly do this, from the standpoint of you get a John Wall, you add a Bradley Beal on, and then you proceed to not add anything else of note throughout that time. So, you were right. So,
technical difficulties. So yeah, we're just talking about just bad organizations and just bad moves and how they constantly just put themselves in position and put themselves behind the 8 ball. as he was talking about his beloved Washington Wizards, I mentioned the Atlanta Falcons. I talk about them a lot. And one of the moves that I always hated was like they held on to a coach too long or they'd hire the wrong coach. They seem to make luxury first round draft picks versus filling a need with the best available player. Like the last 3 years. So when they got last 4 years, actually, you had Michael Penix Jr. this year. Then you go back. Last year was Bijan Robinson. You didn't need because Tyler Algier just ran for 1,000 yards as rookie. Had Cordell Patterson. Then the year before, they took Drake London, and he's a good player, but you didn't need a wide receiver there. You could have taken the best defensive player available. And then the year before, you took Kyle Pitts. And then you take Kyle Pitts, you have Drake London, you have Bijan Robinson, and you don't do anything for them. And then you, like I said, you come out again. Now you draft a quarterback that you can't put on the field, or you don't want to be on the field. So your last 4 first round draft picks, top 10 draft picks, they haven't produced like top 10 picks where you could have gotten defensive tackle help, defensive edge help, because they're last in QB pressures every year, last towards the bottom of the league in sacks every year. The cornerbacks look like you're getting bad cornerbacks because the quarterbacks get 4 seconds to pass the ball. So AJ Terrell can cover, but he can't cover any of these wide receivers at any level for 4 to 5 seconds on a route. So that's always a problem. And then after the 28-3 Super Bowl collapse, which happens, Shanahan went on to become a head coach of the 49ers. He kept Dan Quinn. I'm not saying you should have fired him. They go back to the playoffs the following year. They get the win over LA at the Coliseum. Then they lose to Philly. And then over the next couple of years, it got progressively worse. Like the collapse was always in them, and he didn't make the move until late. And then you bring in a guy who had no business being a head coach. You gave him 3 years of 7-10. So it's just a perennial history of hiring a coach just to be mediocre or just below average. So getting 7-10 every year. Now you're drafting 8, 9, or 10. So you're not getting one of the top players, nor are you in a position where teams are trying to desperately get from 14-3 because you have enough wins. So all these other teams like Houston, Chicago capitalized off of their mediocrity by having the number 1 pick and then Carolina giving them a haul. And now they're still living off of that. Arizona always seems to get a haul because they're in the top 5 drafting all the time. So they take opportunities to rebuild their team. Atlanta just doesn't really take those opportunities. They don't take any of those risks. So what ends up happening is that they're probably going to go 7-10 this year, get another late top 10 pick, maybe 9 or somewhere, maybe 11 or something like that. That's definitely off Gafford, but of course they're not going to call it. So it's just you keep yourself in this perpetual cycle of mediocrity, and then you wonder why you can't sell out your stadiums. Whereas a lot of teams, like you talk about teams like the Yankees, they might not win championships. But yeah, I think the last time they won the World Series, 2009, with A-Rod. But the fans are loyal; they're there all the time because the Yankees will spend the money on the free agent to bring them in to make sure that we're going to be a good team. If we don't win it all, we don't win it all. But from March until September, we're going to be a good team. And sometimes that's kind of all you really need.
Yeah.
Because
So
eventually you'll get over the hump, you'll get the championships. But if you're just constantly putting yourself in a position where your team is drafting in the top 5, then you might not be able to get over the hump, especially if you don't have a GM that's aggressive. Like I said, the Falcons, I don't know why they've been trying to explain this Michael Penix pick instead of just being like, you know what? He just was there. He was there, so we took him.
yeah. So PSA out there for America. If you want to be a podcaster, do not move to Texas unless you just have some kind of IT degree and you set up your own fibers and you set up your own underground railroad or some shit because like AT&T ain't shit. And shout out, prayers out there up in Dallas. I saw the 500K without power because every time it rains or storms here, nothing works ever again.
Yeah, I got to start getting your power lines
You
underground. I think
you
Utah
know,
was probably one of the first places I saw stateside that was like that. My internet is fiber optic, so like all of the cables are underground.
yeah.
There's still
And,
Comcast, and when it rains, cause like I'm out in the country, so when it rains or it snows too hard and the trees fall on the lines, Comcast is out there fixing their boxes. But like I said, Verizon, the boxes are on the ground, all the cables are underneath.
all right, so we got a 6-point game. I'm at 205. Minnesota trying to keep hope alive. But for the NFL purposes of this conversation,
Yeah, I talked about the Falcons while you were away.
right? I saw that. I started reviewing the Tennessee Titans. This was the team that I chose. And it's kind of funny that I decided to choose this team. What a shot, Ant, because I am big on the Titans this year. I like the fact that they went out and got, oh my God, Luca. Oh,
Hold on. I'm behind you. I'm like 5 seconds behind you.
oh, but you'll know it. You'll know it when you see it.
I see it.
Yeah.
And it's the same. It's the same complaint I make every
I thought they
single.
were supposed to be doing away with
They were
that.
supposed to call that. They're supposed to call that on the offensive player. The defensive player is allowed to play defense. You can't lean into him, especially he didn't even try to shoot. He literally reload. Don't
Yeah,
get me.
I didn't even know. I didn't even know that cat cries this much. Like, and
Nah,
I
like
don't, and
I
I, and
give
I
him
don't
that.
mean, I don't mean like whine. I just mean like literally cry, like when doves cry. That's his new name. But
Yo,
but
I give him that because that's they because who was Kobe was big on doing that. That was the Kobe move because
yep,
Kobe in the
Trey
post.
Young does it a lot.
Trey Young was one of the guys that would slow up the dribble. Him and Chris
Right.
Paul, they started calling that on the offensive player. But it seems like in the playoffs they don't call it. This was clearly that exact play
I know.
that they need to review. It's ridiculous.
All right. So I was talking about the Tennessee Titans. So one thing that I thought about this season, and I know Mr. Logical are going to disagree with me already,
Yep.
but I'm gonna say it anyway. So of course, Tennessee got their offensive lineman in the first round of the draft this year. They
Smart. Smart.
yeah, it is smart, protect your quarterback. But I was thinking I was thinking, why not take a page out of the Cincinnati Bengals book when they had the choice of go offensive lineman or grab Jamar Chase? Tennessee, why not trade up for Malik Neighbors and, fill that in with DeAndre Hopkins, with Calvin Ridley, which would give you the Chicago Bear model because they had DJ Moore and Keenan Allen already and they drafted Roma Dunze. So, because this draft was heavy on linemen, so why not? You could pick up a lineman in free agency because that lineman has experience already. Like, whatever. Like, there's multiple ways. I'm not going to kill him too much for that, but it was just something that I had thought about. But what I am going to kill him
Yeah,
for,
I definitely would. The Jamar Chase pick made sense because Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase were teammates and they had like the most electrifying offensive run in college football history.
right,
That's why that made sense. That's
right,
why I was like,
right.
I don't think even if there was a wide receiver, if that wide receiver is from USC, if
Woo!
Jamar Chase was the USC and not LSU, I think they would have gone with Panay Sewell in that spot.
Yeah,
But the fact that they had that bond, I think Tennessee made a wise move by taking I think their offseason has been legit
yeah. Their offseason has been
because
legit.
their conference is winnable.
If Will
Everybody's
Levis
young.
Yeah, if Will Levis can hit a stride in year two, because we talked about it. He went 4 touchdowns in his first game against the Falcons. The rest of the
Yeah.
season, he had 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions. So if he can take a stride this year,
I showed you the Atlanta should have got a pass rusher.
they could be in the wild card battle. But I wanted to go back because, like I said, with the Wizards, I went back to like 2010 or so. So I'm taking you back. I'm taking you back.
Yeah.
So where I landed on Tennessee was it's just quarterback. They literally just can't get the quarterback right. Now, of course, they had Steve McNair back in the day, the late great Steve McNair. But then in 2006,
Was that? No, that wasn't Jake Locker.
no, that's later. I would get to that. That was Vince Young.
Oh
Who
yeah, that's a good pick.
maybe, you know what I mean? But I was able to get Jay Cutler 8 picks later. And, so Vince Young is that quintessential quarterback of Y25 hates quarterback record. Because they were sitting up here winning these games 13-10, 16-7, and all I heard was, "Oh, Vince Young is such a winner. Vince Young just knows how to come through in the clutch." No, he don't. They had a good defense.
Yo, he's clutch.
What's
He was clutch.
What's Javon Curse's record?
No
Exactly.
idea.
Exactly. Says, stop with the quarterback record. That's message number one. To Mr. Logical's point, 2011, Jake Locker. Now,
I remember that was a shock. I was shocked when he went because he went 8.
I'm not saying that there was a better quarterback option, but here's some people that were available in that draft: J.J. Watt, Colin Kaepernick, Andy Dalton,
the Red Rocket.
Who, laugh if you will, but
Andy Dalton had a top-notch NFL career in those early Cincinnati Andy Dalton, AJ Green days.
Yeah.
People act like they forgot.
They did forget.
People forgot about Andy was on that thing. But like I said, the same thing with we talk about Colin Sexton. It's just you keep going to these different teams and you keep going into places where people don't love you. Like people,
come on, Conley.
People didn't bring you in, so it's like, okay, that's the problem. It's like these people got to bring you in. And stop.
Nah, son.
Did that go in?
Son.
Did that? I just saw the flailing.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Hold on. That's not even a foul.
That's not even a foul. That's why I'm laughing. That's why I'm laughing.
Literally, no one touched him.
All right, now back to this.
Come on, man. I love doing this show live now because people can see. Come on now.
So, all right. So Minnesota is up by.
Hold on. I'm behind you.
Oh, okay. All right. Let Mr. Logical do his thing. All right. So, anyway, 2017, Tennessee picks up. This is a few draft picks from the same draft.
Okay.
Corey Davis, Adoree Jackson, Tywan Taylor, and Jonnu Smith. So that was all one draft.
Those are solid picks.
Those are solid picks that I don't even think signed a second contract with the Titans.
They probably fired a coach in between.
And then 2019, of course, they did great. They went and got A.J. Brown. But also in 2019, that's where my beef comes with them. And I know Mr. Logical going to disagree with me on this. But That was the year they went out and got the former wide receiver turned quarterback, Ryan Tannehill.
Ryan Tannehill was your top 12 quarterback.
And you know what? I saw this movie before twice. It was called Alex Smith Loses His Job to Colin Kaepernick. Alex Smith Loses His Job to Patrick Mahomes. So you like to say, don't bring feelings.
He didn't lose his job.
I know, but he should have.
They drafted. They made the playoffs. I think they even won the division that year.
Alex Smith made the playoffs too. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm talking about.
You like to say don't bring You like to say don't bring feelings to a fact fight. I like to say don't bring a BB gun to the Wild Wild West.
What were you gonna do at quarterback? There's only so many really good quarterbacks.
I will tell you.
Eight.
I will tell you.
It's 8 top tier quarterbacks. Well, 4 top tier. Well, yeah, 4 top tier. We'll give you 4 top tier. 4 second tier, and the rest of them are interchangeable.
I will
Kirk
tell you.
Cousins, okay.
I will tell you. And obviously, some of this is hindsight. You know what I mean? Because at the moment of the draft, you feel one way, and then it plays out, and you have to, as Mr. Logic will say, my opinion changes as the facts change.
Yes.
So the year after they got Tannehill, Jordan Love was in that draft at 26, Jalen Hurts at 53. So Jalen Hurts, to me, I'm gonna use him because Jordan Love, nobody really saw that coming. We thought Jalen Hurts was a winner or had the right attitude that could come in, galvanize a locker room. So I'll stick with Jalen Hurts. I'll leave Jordan Love out of it. But that was your perfect quarterback to fall under Ryan Tannehill's mentorship. He wasn't a first round pick.
So you're saying they should have drafted one of these guys to sit behind Tannehill after they signed Tannehill, or you're saying they should have waited?
Yes. Oh. No, I'm saying like to sit behind Tannehill for a year because Ryan Tannehill, regardless of how we feel about him, is not the long-term answer. Like if I'm like,
but that would have been you would have been using a first-round pick or a second-round pick a year after you signed a guy. Like, I understand that quarterback is important because if you have a terrible one, it can sink your organization. But if you have too many, i.e., what you're probably going to allude to here in a second with having Will Levis, Tannehill, and Malik Willis all like getting Malik Willis and Will Levis in back-to-back drafts did not help them.
No, I wasn't going to bring that up. That's a good point, though. I wasn't going to bring that up. What I was going to say is the Tennessee Titans remind me of the city of San Antonio.
Elaborate.
Their last GM had no vision. So when I look at San Antonio, for example, there's 1.5 million people here. There was a point in time where there was probably 90,000 people here. And they didn't track their metrics or analytics to see, look at how many people are moving in this city. Maybe we should build some roads. Maybe we should expand some highways. So when I look at the Tennessee Titans, they had no vision for the future from the standpoint of you saw it happening around you. Patrick Mahomes came in. Deshaun Watson came in. Joe Burrow came in. Lamar Jackson came in. Tua came in. I don't know if I said Herbert, but I'll say it again. He came in. Trevor Lawrence came in. Josh Allen came in. And I'm bringing Ryan Tannehill to the fight. You can't win like this. And speaking of winning, congratulations to the Minnesota Timberwolves.
It's 0.2 seconds back on. They put them back on the floor.
Yeah,
I disagree with that.
I know you do
because I think you're using the results to tear down, because sometimes it's simply as you have to get the right fit at quarterback. Derrick Henry ran for 2,000 yards with Tannehill at quarterback, and Tannehill was a Pro Bowler because the play action pass off of that. Where they messed up was,
now imagine you had a good quarterback.
No, think about it. You had a good quarterback. You trade away A.J. Brown to Philadelphia, and you thought, I'm going to just go get this kid from Arkansas who's built like A.J. Brown, and he was going to replace him. That's where they made the mistake. The mistake wasn't at quarterback.
Well, I was going to get into that. That was my next point.
Well,
thank you very much.
This is why we have the show. That was the problem. The problem, like, I think sometimes I think people are too obsessed. Like you said, quarterback wins. I think people are too obsessed with thinking that it's apples and apples when it comes to quarterbacks. Like, oh, you could have got this guy if you waited. Like, I understand.
No, if you have
I understand that, like, if you have Ryan Tannehill, he isn't, once again, there's only 4 guys that are ultra elite in the league. No matter how much we try to put guys in there, Brock Purdy's a good quarterback. His arm talent is nowhere near what Josh Allen does. And when he moves around in the pocket, he can't move like Lamar. Those guys are elite. Obviously, Mahomes is elite. There's only a select few guys. I think people look at these measurables and think like, oh, the quarterback is, we got to get you got to get the quarterback right. You don't need to get an elite quarterback. You have to get the quarterback right. I think Tennessee had the quarterback right, and they never felt like they had the quarterback right, and they kept treating him like he wasn't the right guy, because the defense is out there too. The defense gives up points in the playoff game too. So if you got to win a playoff game 20-17, so be it. You just got to keep the other team under 20 points. You
When I get
can't
to
give
the
up the final
playoffs,
drive.
I'm not saying that I need Peyton Manning under center. What I'm saying is I need a quarterback that needs to be able to make a play without me giving him 15 possessions.
Yeah, but I need a quarterback that I don't want my quarterback looking over his shoulder every single game or every single press conference wondering why
Which is my
bunch of
point of
trade
they shouldn't
rumors.
have got him in the first place.
I think he did well in Miami. I think he did well in Tennessee. It just doesn't always work out. How many quarterbacks are in the league right now? How many if you're starting a team, you get a new team moving to San Antonio, you get to pick any quarterback.
Right.
From outside of the top four. So we get the top four. Mahomes, that guy's off the limits. Burrow, Allen, Jackson.
Okay.
Who you taking?
You're probably gonna end up somewhere between Dakota.
Okay.
Maybe depending on how strongly Josh Allen.
No, he's in that top four.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right.
He's in
so depending on how you feel about, because you got to project a little bit. So depending on how you feel about Herbert and Lawrence, that's a conversation. Maybe Kyler Murray.
Okay. I would say I'd take Jared Goff.
And I wouldn't take Tannehill over. Oh, I forgot about Goff. I wouldn't take Tannehill over any of those dudes that I just named and the dude that you named.
So Jared Goff, Jordan Love, CJ Stroud.
Nope. Ain't taking Tannehill over any of them.
I'll get to my point. And give me another guy. I'll say Tua.
Okay.
Those four. So the four that I named and the four that you name, what's the gap between those guys? It's pretty close.
Like from each other?
Like from each other. Like those guys are Lawrence, Herbert, Tua, CJ Stroud, Jared Goff, Jordan. Those guys are pretty much in this same like grouping. It's not that far apart, even though it's 8 guys. I think Tannehill was in that kind of pot when he was available. So you can win games with Tua, you can win a lot. Jared Goff was almost in the Super Bowl if they kick field goals. It's just a matter of I felt as if he was because they didn't draft him and there was moving pieces, GMs potentially get their jobs on the line, coaches' jobs on the line. I don't think Vrabel wanted either one of these quarterbacks when he got hired on. So it just was like it was constant bickering that we all saw play out publicly. I think that was the downfall of the right because he was definitely a better option than Will Levis. He was a better option than Malik Willis, but they treated him like he wasn't. That's all.
Well, I mean, if we're looking at it from the standpoint of Malik Willis was a 3rd round draft pick,
but they didn't even need him.
Right.
He wasn't ready. They didn't need him, but they took him anyway.
He was the better option. You know what I mean? But Will Levis, I'm not so sure because the problem with a team like Tennessee is that they convince themselves that they're right there. Like, we're a bounce away here or there. So they don't necessarily take the steps necessary to improve because some teams, like you talked about the Clippers, some teams overreact and try to go get a star. You know what I'm saying? Some teams like the Titans are content with where they are and they don't take the move that they might need to take that next step.
I think the marriage between the GM and the coach is evident because Mike Vrabel shouldn't have been fired.
Correct. I do agree with that.
I don't think that was a union. And I think Tannehill, because he wasn't drafted by these guys, just was a byproduct of it. Will Levis is going to be in that same boat if he doesn't perform this year.
And
it's going to be the same thing. It's not about like picking the wrong quarterback. It's just you got to marry all of it together. Sometimes you might even need to say, you know what? If I'm going to get a new quarterback, a new head coach, I might as well move the GM too. Let me get guys in here, or maybe a guy that the GM has really wanted for years. Like if you got the GM in there right now, I think he's from he came from San Francisco. If there's a coach on the San Francisco staff that he really wanted for years and Callahan doesn't work out, then you let him go get his guy. Like, yo, I've wanted this guy for years. I've been watching him. He's developed whatever position coach on the 49ers. Then you bring him in, and then you bring another coach. But it just feels like a lot of these teams, like I talk about the Broncos, the old regime paid Russell Wilson, and then the new ownership group bought the team.
Stuck with him. Yeah,
and got stuck with him. So right. they basically shafted them with this $265 million bill on their way out, as they took $4.5 billion with them.
Right.
So that was the problem there. But like I said, with Tennessee, like I think they're moving along, but like I don't know. I just feel like Tannehill always got a raw deal, because I think he made the same mistakes as every other quarterback. Joe Burrow doesn't have a great, playoff run. He has 9 touchdowns in like 7 playoff games. I mean, so it's not like all these guys just going in the playoffs lighting it up. We see Justin Herbert blow a 27-point lead.
Yeah, yeah.
And then in that same game, Trevor Lawrence threw 4 picks. So it's not always just this guy is that much better. I feel like I think the group of 8.
No, I just never Tennessee.
We're probably the only people outside of Tennessee having a Tennessee Titans conversation, which is incredible. That's why I love the show.
Yeah, you know what I mean? This is what we do. Like, it would have been easy for me to say New York Giants, or New York. You brought up, like, did you pick the Jets when we were in our pre-meeting? Did you pick the Jets? Because that would have been easy to do.
It's easy to do.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Whereas, like, with Tennessee,
because the Jets never get the quarterback right. They don't have the right fit. They don't have the right. They as long as I've been alive, realistically, my 40, damn near 43 years, I don't think they've ever gotten a quarterback right. I think.
How can the same team have the butt fumble and Zach Wilson?
Yo, it's just I'm gobsmacked.
Yo, who is the best Jets quarterback of our lifetime? Like, do I got to go back to like Kenny O'Brien?
Yeah, the fact that we both said it is fact. That's it.
Like, I'm thinking about this now. Like,
you got old Vinny Testaverde, maybe no, but yeah, like they've literally gotten it wrong. Like, so many organizations have gotten it wrong.
Yo,
to the point, like,
you know what? That's like a poll question, right? Like, who's the best Jets quarterback?
I mean, really, you got Chad Pennington. But he didn't have the arm to throw the ball next to the Hudson. Like, you can't have a guy with a water pistol arm trying to throw the ball at before it was MetLife, it was the Meadowlands.
We could have easily picked on the Bears.
The Bears, the same thing. The Bears haven't had a quarterback though for 30 touchdowns or 3,800 yards.
Something like that. And then you got, Dan Campbell fixed Detroit, or else we could have used them, So there's plenty of ineptness. I mean, in a few years, are we going to be having the same, as we celebrate like our 6-year anniversary or something? Are we going to be talking about the Arizona Cardinals?
The Cardinals paid Kyler Murray too early, but they got him a bona fide weapon.
Yeah, potential generational talent.
Mm-hmm. So they did make that move. Like I said, they made some trades.
My God, to y'all.
Don't worry, he'll go right back because Atlanta won't throw him the ball. So it's the Jets. Like I said, the Jets never get the quarterback right. The Giants haven't gotten the quarterback right since Eli.
Mm-hmm.
Because
to be fair, like, Daniel Jones is pretty much the first quarterback since Eli.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because they had Geno on the roster.
Geno in the roster, so they got. Then so you got the Jets. The Colts have been struggling since Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck,
but they've still made playoffs though, and been like. They've been a factor, Houston, they might not have been close.
Houston was running through the quarterbacks, like they were swiping on Tinder for a while too, and I think they might have landed on something. San Francisco was going through a lot of running those quarterbacks, but that was mainly because of injury. Yeah, Jacksonville had a good little run with quarterbacks.
Yeah, hopefully we're not having this
Miami's been searching
conversation.
for a quarterback since Dan Marino, and I think I like Tua. I think the problem is the owners. The owners' greed is gonna be their overall downfall, and that we talked about incompetency. I think a lot of the teams where we know the owners' names tend to make the most mistakes because, like we talk about the referees. If I know the referee's name, you're too involved in the game. You're
Or
too
you know
involved.
what? It would have been easy for us to talk about Dallas.
I don't think Dallas is incompetent. I think Dallas is they're just too
Well, this offseason
like
is a perfect
their
example,
offense is
though.
too is their nepotism is their problem. I think that's the
Right,
same
right.
thing in with the Jets because I think the Jets are like family owned. I think they have a lot of family ownership people at the top
But this
in
offseason is
position
the
making
perfect
plays.
example for the Cowboys. Like, because I mean, realistically, you got just spitballing going off of how last season ended. You have San Francisco and Detroit. Jordan Love came up in there and did the two-step on them. But I think for the most part, people believed with the D on the end, pause, that that Dallas was better than Green Bay.
Correct.
Green Bay was better on that day, but Dallas was the better team. But as we look around, you know, um, these teams have done things. Detroit has went out and got another DB, another Bama DB. You know, um, Green Bay paid Jordan Love, so we'll see what happens there. But Dallas
Wait,
literally,
wait. Oh, did they picked up his 5th-year option or they
yeah, yeah,
extended
yeah,
him?
yeah.
Oh,
I think they extended them, or yeah, I know it was like
I
200.
think
It was like
I think
200 million or something.
Jordan Love he didn't get paid yet.
I thought he did.
I
I could have
think Jared
sworn.
Goff got paid. I
Yeah,
think they might
Jared
have
Goff
picked up
definitely got paid. Yeah, he
Jared
definitely
Goff
got
got paid.
paid
I think
because that
Jordan
was
Love got
recent. But
because I
Jordan
think they're
Love, I thought I
waiting.
heard. Let's see.
I
I
think
thought
they're
he got it.
waiting for Trevor
Or
Lawrence's
maybe it
deal.
was just on the table then. That's what it was.
Yeah. These
Yeah.
owners are going to hurt themselves because the salary cap could be higher
Ooh.
and
So
you
Jordan
could pay
Love.
more players.
So Jordan Love is going to be up at the same time that Dakota could get 60 million.
I don't think he's going to get 60
No,
million.
no, no. I know, but I'm just saying, like,
I don't even think that with a straight face his agent can go in there and ask for 60 million. I think
I don't
if
know.
he asked for 60 million from Dallas, it's just because the way they're treating his offseason now. But once again, it's nepotism and partly incompetence because I don't think I've heard anyone mention this, but the last two quarterbacks are kind of in this position. Well, even three. So we'll go Lamar, Dakota with his first deal, and Kirk Cousins. All of them got injured in the last year of their deal, and you had to pay them high end market money for the following season. Well, Kirk Cousins got his from another team, but then Minnesota, they essentially just allowed themselves to start over at quarterback. They brought in Sam Darnold, who's literally been all over the league playing mediocre football.
Right.
So it's just like someone has to be the adult in the room. But if you look at Lamar played his last year's deal, and then he asked for a trade, and everything went sideways, and he missed the last few games, missed the playoff game,
They
and you still had to
franchised
pay
them.
him. You had to pay him $250 million.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's the year Dak broke his ankle.
Mm-hmm.
That was the final year's franchise. After you franchise him twice, knowing you couldn't do it again, when you could have paid, they could have paid Dak $28 million.
Yep.
And by the time his deal was on the table, it was over 40 because I think Mahomes got 45.
And that's what I'm saying. That's why I said, like, we probably could have brought up Dallas. It's to a much lesser degree
Yeah, but
than
now they're
than when
doing the
we're
same
talking
thing
about.
now.
Yeah, they're doing the same thing all over again. So
Like
it's
you
not
should
the
just go 3
Jets.
years, 150. Just go 3 years, 150, 125 guaranteed.
Yeah,
Or 120
it's not the
guaranteed.
Jets, but I the reason I brought them up is just because of how popular they are and how much of a big topic of conversation they are. So that's why I was
Yeah.
saying it would have been easy to talk about them, you know.
Yeah.
So we'll see. You know, I mean, there's
But
a
there's
lot of.
teams that get it right, like Green Bay gets it right. I think drafting
Mhm.
Jordan Love when Aaron Rodgers was kind of on what they thought was
They
a
had no
decline.
reason to draft Jordan Love, but they saw the vision.
They saw, but with that they had already done that before. They'd done it to where it worked. They
Right,
had
right,
Brett
right,
Favre. They
right,
drafted Aaron Rodgers.
right.
So Aaron was on the decline. I know that people trying to compare the Penix cousin thing. I was like, it's not the same thing at
It's
all.
not the same thing. It's
It's
not even
apples.
close.
It's apples and kumquats. So it's like you draft Jordan Love, and if you get 2 more years out of Aaron, that's perfect for a quarterback. But if you thought you were going to get 5 more years out of Aaron, it would have been dumb to take Jordan Love. So
Right,
I think they set themselves up. Even though it might have pissed Aaron off, it pissed him off to the point where he went back-to-back MVPs.
right. Well, I mean, it's just like the Andrew Luck thing, you know, like the Colts didn't know that Peyton Manning was going to come back from this neck injury and do what he did. So, I mean,
They definitely came
and
off him super quick though. Like,
they did, but what we saw, he only had 2 to 3 years left. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Andrew Luck just got battered and said no mas.
yeah, I can't believe he retired during the game.
You
That
know
still
what I'm
was
saying?
one of the craziest moments
No
during the
mas.
preseason game.
You know what I mean? So like it was the same thing where some teams just have vision where to the naked eye and to the novice, if you will, we might sit back and say, "Yo, what are they thinking?" You know, but it
Well,
tends to work out.
realistically, I think I think football fans and people who like football, we might not fully grasp all the nuance of the draft room,
And the salary cap and
the
all that
salary
stuff,
cap
the
and
dead
everything
money.
else.
Yeah.
But if I'm a Kansas City fan, they won the Super Bowl, but they threw a lot of drag routes and bubble screens. I would have liked if they would have gotten, I think they would have probably been better off getting Keon Coleman
I agree.
versus Worthy because
I was touting that ever since the draft when the draft order was set. I was like, yo, Kansas City has to get Keon Coleman.
because Worthy and Hollywood Brown, you might think is like, oh, this is gonna be so great, but you had that with Kadarius Toney and McCall Hardman last year, and no one went deep. Like I don't recall seeing too many go routes for Kadarius Toney.
Well, I do believe that Hollywood's going to go deep. You know, that seems to be his niche, if you will. We'll see what Xavier does. I think they're going to try to deploy him in Tyreek Hill type ways.
Yeah, but you could, but like I said, if you're a fan of the Chiefs, you can see that. So if they would have drafted, traded up, and they would have drafted a linebacker, you're like, I guess this linebacker will work, but we really could have used a wide receiver. So when you see a team like when the Giants took Daniel Jones 6, when they had 6 and 17, like no one else was coming to get Daniel Jones. I'm like, you could have got the best player available at 6 and still gotten Daniel Jones at 17, or use 17 to move up if you heard somebody
I
might want him.
I
I
always
don't know why they took him
wonder.
at 6.
I always wonder who San Francisco thought was going to take Trey Lance.
I think about who Chicago thought was going to take Trubisky. Because they traded from 3 to 2. They gave up draft
They gave
capital to
up the
go from 3
farm.
to 2. And San Francisco took Solomon, like I think Solomon Wilcox, something like that. Like they took a defensive tackle at 3 that
Yeah,
they were going to take at 2. I'm like,
yeah.
you could just sat at 3 and not give them any draft capital. Yeah, the Trey Lance thing, like to me, I don't know, like that's going to go down one of those things. Is like, because I was saying it that whole time because everyone was saying it's Mac Jones. I'm like, no one in
Yeah.
2021 NFL is going to trade up to get a statue like Mac Jones.
So
Like
here you go,
you don't
real
give up
quick.
draft capital. I was like, they could have just gotten Justin Fields.
Yeah, so let's do this real quick and then we'll get out of here.
All
All
right,
right. So Trubisky, right?
correct.
So he went number 2.
Yes,
Number 3, San Francisco took Solomon Thomas.
yes, Solomon Thomas.
Number 4, Jacksonville took Fournette. Number 5, Tennessee took Corey Davis. which was one of my bad picks that they, getting him at number 5.
Yeah,
Number 6, the Jets took Jamal Adams.
that was a good
Mike
pick
Mike Williams went 7 to the Chargers.
out of USC.
McCaffrey went 8.
Okay,
John Ross went 9
because
to
of the 40
Cincinnati.
time.
Yep. Mahomes went 10. Lattimore went 11 to the Saints. Deshaun went 12. Hassan Reddick went 13 to the Cardinals. Derek Barnett went 14. Malik Hooker 15. I'm not seeing the spot where Trubisky. I'm not seeing it.
As far as like, that's the thing. Chicago moved up from 3 to 2.
Right.
They were at 3. So
San Francisco wasn't going to take him.
was it going to take them?
So unless they had intel, they had to. I'm gonna give them benefit of the doubt. They had to have had some
No.
kind of intel. Even if
Who?
San Francisco bluffed them, like they had to have some kind of intel.
Because I look at like, okay, so if we think about it before we get out of here, because I pondered it when it happened. Deshaun went 12. That's where Houston was at, right?
Yes.
Kansas City traded up to 10 from wherever they were to get Mahomes.
And of course they traded with Buffalo.
Yeah.
That was where were
they? Were the only. So they traded up for a quarterback. They were the only team in that first round that traded up for a quarterback. Correct?
Well, I mean Chicago.
No. I'm just saying, like Chicago was already at 3. Chicago was already
Kansas City. Yeah, Kansas City came from 27
to 10 to get Mahomes.
So,
and then Watson just went 12. I don't think anybody else in the league was looking for quarterbacks. If no one moved up, if it wasn't a crazy scramble to get in the top 10 by multiple teams to get Watson, who had just come off a national championship. I know he had the ACL injury, but he just won a national championship. Just beat Alabama. And I don't think anyone really knew about Mahomes. I remember the shootout he had with Baker Mayfield, Texas Tech versus Oklahoma. I don't know, maybe that was a game that sold some scouts. I just thought the game was crazy because it was like 1,600 yards of offense or some crazy number like that.
Right.
But I don't know anybody else that's moving from wherever they were to 2. And that's I remember when it happened. I'm like, why? I would have just let them take. Because I was thinking like Deshaun Watson, I would have taken Deshaun Watson anyway, just because I seen him play on the big stage back-to-back years. And it was against Alabama. He won a national championship. I'm like, I'm taking that guy over anybody else, over a guy who only had 1 year. So I'm taking Deshaun Watson anyway. So if I'm Chicago, I'm like, I'm sitting back like, listen, if someone jumped to 2 to get Trubisky and my fallback is the guy who just won a national championship,
so be it.
I think I'm good. I think I'm doing all right. I think I can make that work. And if he doesn't, people are like, well, I mean, you can't blame him for taking a 6'3" elusive quarterback that just beat Alabama in the national championship game. It just didn't work out.
Right.
But like jumping to get Trubisky, that's how everybody got fired.
Right.
Incompetence.
There you have it. So that was our first episode of Case Studies. You know what I'm saying? So expect more in the future. To take
send your ideas if you have some.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Get those over to us. You know what I'm saying? We'll break it down. Obviously, you see, we try to get into the weeds, to try to figure this stuff out. But he is the even kill. He is the one and only. Air Force veteran, dedicated father. You know what I'm saying? Play golf the right way.
Yo, don't make me hit you with a 2-iron.
Mr. Logical. And I am 2-5. We will see you on Thursday. And guess what? We will see the Minnesota Timberwolves on Thursday because just they kept it alive. Just like the NBA wanted. We're going back to Tarjay, baby. Back to Tarjay and Minneapolis for game 5. So we'll see if the Wolves
Saturday back in Dallas.
Yeah, we'll see if the Wolves can get us talking how the Celtics got us talking last year. So we'll see how that goes. Grandma, good night. You know what I'm saying? Tuck yourself in tonight. I got some editing to do, but we will be back Thursday. We love you. Thanks for the support. Like, review, subscribe, share, do all the fun things, do all the free things. See you soon. Peace. As my music doesn't play. You know what I'm saying? I gotta hit the button and not hit the. Yeah, okay. You know what I'm saying? On the job training right here.
Live shows, baby. Live shows.
All right, y'all. Peace.